Opportunity, strengthen civic life, and fulfill the promise of the American city. Here in New York, we've developed and championed reforms to law enforcement, welfare, and education that, in the 1990s and 2000s, dramatically improved our city's quality of life, inspiring a generation of urban reformers. Today, we face a new set of challenges, chief among them an acute affordability crisis that is squeezing working and middle-class New Yorkers and radicalizing young people who fear for their future. Which brings us to the question at the heart of today's conversation. How can we make Gotham once again the nation's most opportunity-rich metropolis? To take on that question, I'm honored and delighted to be joined by New York City's 110th Mayor, Eric Adams. Born in Brooklyn and raised in South Jamaica, Queens, Mayor Adams served 22 years in the NYPD, rising to the rank of captain before representing Central Brooklyn in the state Senate and serving 2 terms as Brooklyn Borough President. In 2021, he emerged from a crowded field to be elected mayor, pledging to make the city safer, fairer, and more affordable. Since taking office, he has confronted a surge in migrant arrivals that has strained the city's shelter system and budget, ongoing concerns about public safety, and the urgent task of keeping New York's economic recovery on track. Through it all, Mayor Adams has worked to steer the city forward while navigating the exceedingly complex political landscape in Albany and Washington. We'll begin our conversation with public order and safety, then turn to the economy and the challenge of keeping New York affordable for the next generation. But before we get started, I'm excited that the Mayor's office is premiering a new video with us, followed by remarks from Mayor Adams. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Adams to the stage.
We betrayed New Yorkers. We pretended as though we didn't see it, and we allowed them to live in inhumane environments, and that is not what my administration is going to do.
I'm the mayor unveiling a bold and rather controversial new plan
to take people with severe mental illness off city streets by force if necessary.
These specialized intervention teams will have the training, expertise, and sensitivity to ensure that those in need are safely transported to a hospital for evaluation.
Aggressive and ambitious, those are the words being used to describe Mayor Eric Adams' new plan to tackle the city's mental health crisis.
A rally on the steps of City Hall called for an end to the directive.
Involuntary treatment in a psychiatric hospital is not a solution.
It was controversial when announced, but now, 1 year later, the city claims that so far, this is working.
Brand new report shows most New Yorkers are in favor of removing the mentally ill off streets and subways in order to give them the help that they need.
New York lawmakers have now come to a deal.
The tentative agreement made with state lawmakers also includes lowering the standard for involuntary commitment of mentally ill people.
When this was proposed as a cultural shift in the way we treat people with mental illness, it was usually followed by, it will never happen, there's too much resistance. The mayor refused to accept the status quo, and we are here today because of Mayor Adams' stick-to-itiveness and tenacity.
This is a major victory for New Yorkers, a major victory for those who need help and need care. Let's be clear, there's more work to be done, but we're moving in the right direction. Thank you so much, and good morning to the Manhattan Institute. And it's great to be with you all today here in this beautiful place. And since joining the NYPD in 1984, my life work has been building a safer city for our fellow New Yorkers. And I came into office focused on keeping New York the safest big city in America. Because public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity and the foundation of urban life. That work has paid off. As your mayor, I'm proud of the progress we have made bringing down crime and violence over the last 3.5 years, reducing shootings, homicides, and other major crime categories to record lows. We're also equally proud of our efforts to improve the quality of life across the entire city, including the deployment of rapid response quality of life teams. Since April, these Q teams have been zeroing in on problems such as noise complaints and illegal parking, as well as homelessness-related issues, outdoor drug use, aggressive panhandling, and other serious concerns that affect New Yorkers' quality of life. Over the next 2 weeks, we will complete this rollout citywide, with Q teams present in every precinct in New York City. And this week, we have taken our efforts to improve quality of life even further with the launch of our campaign to end the culture of anything goes. We want every New Yorker to know about the work we are doing to change the culture around quality of life issues, including our efforts to update laws that too often prevent people with severe mental illness from getting help and support that they need. Addressing public health and public disorder is at the core of what New Yorkers rightfully expect from their city government. New Yorkers must be able to go about their lives without having to court chaos and dodge disorder at every step. Most importantly, we must stop leaving behind the New Yorkers most in need, because when anything goes, nothing is possible. Ending anything goes means more than changing the culture. It means changing the reality of how we support those in crisis. It means making the investments necessary to support outreach, harm reduction, wraparound services, and housing. Those services that make lasting impacts in lives and communities. For over 3 years, our administration has taken the necessary actions to address the crisis of severe mental illness that New Yorkers see playing out every day on our streets, in our subways, and in our communities. I often think back to the first weeks of my administration. This is an important moment. We lost Michelle Go. Her life was tragically cut short by someone dealing with severe mental illness who was not given the help he needed. Decade after decade, we walked past New Yorkers who were dealing with severe mental health issues. Far too often, we left our brothers and sisters on their own to find help. We had a mental health system that was basically a revolving door, where a person would come in, receive medication, and then leave a few hours later without any kind of long-term plan. This administration wasn't going to let the status quo continue. Our work began only a few short weeks after Michelle's life was taken. We announced our subway safety plan to help connect New Yorkers in need with services and help, and to make sure our subways were safe for all who relied on them. Over the last 3 years, the progress we have made is remarkable. Since the launch, more than 8,600 New Yorkers in need of housing have been connected to shelter, with over 1,000 formerly homeless New Yorkers who once lived in our subways now they're in permanent housing. And when you add in our street-level efforts, that number grows to over 3,500 New Yorkers. People who were once living on our streets or in the subways who have now been placed in permanent housing. Permanent housing. We also launched new outreach programs like Scout and PATH to serve the hardest to reach New Yorkers. And in the 9 months since launching PATH alone, we have had over 13,500 contacts with unhoused New Yorkers and provided services nearly 4,000 times. We've opened 1,400 safe haven and stabilization beds and invested in a $650 million homeless and mental health plan that would give patients a place to continue their treatment after being discharged from the hospital. We have also put out our opioid settlement funding to good use, with 2024 seeing the first decline in overdose death rates since 2018. This work is critical, and we have paired it with an aggressive investment in beds and staffing. places where people in crisis can get shelter, get help, and get on the path to stability. But we didn't stop there. We knew that the standard tools were helpful, and we worked to strengthen them. But it was clear they didn't reach everyone. There were still too many New Yorkers on our streets struggling with severe mental illness who were unable to recognize that they needed help. So in year one, we proposed a major policy shift to expand our use of involuntary removals for people whose severe mental illness were putting themselves or others in harm's way. I was one of the first and most emphatic voices to call for wider use of involuntary removals and commitments. And while most New Yorkers were clear that this was needed and the right thing to do, at the time, it was portrayed as a deeply controversial, including by many of the elected leaders and community groups that now support it today. This was once described as a non-starter to many, but in the 3 years since, we have seen a monumental shift in the conversation. This year, our partners in the state have clarified our laws, opening the door to a new era of meaningful reforms and lasting change. This legislation explicitly states that when mental illness prevents someone from meeting their basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, or medical care, that person poses a danger to themselves and requires treatment. This legislation also requires hospitals to work more closely with outpatient providers, give more decision-making authority to psychiatric nurse practitioners in our hospitals, empower families to get their loved ones involuntary help, and improve assisted outpatient treatment to close the gaps in the system that prevent people from getting lasting care. This legislation ended the debate and set us up to effectively treat those suffering from serious mental illness. It is a huge step in the right direction, and I want to thank Governor Hochul and our partners in state government for getting it done for the city and for the state. Thanks to the training of first responders, hiring additional nurses to help people on the street, and tireless advocacy, we've seen our laws strengthen, our investments in treatment increase, and most importantly, real results. We've made unprecedented progress getting help to New Yorkers struggling with severe mental illness, including those who are hardest to reach and most desperately in need. And while we've made the system work better to address severe mental illness and homelessness, I often hear from New Yorkers who say that they still see too many people in crises on our streets. They are not wrong. While we have made progress, public drug use is still a problem on our streets across our city and, to be honest, across our country. From the hub in the Bronx to Washington Square Park in Manhattan, illegal drug use and the quality of life issues that come with it are far too common, creating serious problems for residents, visitors, and small business owners. The evidence is right there in front of us. People openly using illegal drugs on the streets and in our parks, passed out in doorways and sidewalks, encampments littering with syringes and vials, and unsanitary conditions that are a threat to public health and public order. This cannot be allowed to continue. We must help those struggling finally get treatment, whether they recognize the need for it or not. Addiction doesn't just harm individual users. It tears apart lives, families, and entire communities. We must change the system to keep all New Yorkers safe. Today, I'm putting forward our vision to support those far too long have been viewed as a lost cause, the Compassionate Intervention Act. These proposals will address public drug use and help more New Yorkers struggling with addiction get the help they need. First, we're asking state lawmakers to extend the lifeline of involuntary commitment to those struggling with serious addiction. We have already made it easier to use involuntary commitment to help people with untreated severe mental illness get care. And the Compassionate Interventions Act will give medical professionals the legal authority they need to transport someone who appears to be struggling with addiction to a hospital for evaluation and for support. This legislation also proposes that, just as we have done for severe mental illness, once the person makes it to a hospital for evaluations, doctors should have the ability to seek a court order to mandate treatment for substance use, even if the person's addictions makes them unwilling to accept treatment on their own. And I need to really lean into this quote because I want to be clear. This authority will belong solely to the doctors and nurses responding to people in need. And it would be the single most effective tool in helping end the drug abuse crisis we see all around us. This is an expansion of the work we first proposed on severe mental illness 3 years ago, when we called for an end to the days of ignoring people who were clearly experiencing a mental health crisis in public. In addition to giving doctors and nurses the tools they need to actually help those struggling with addiction, we are also going to boost outreach in hotspots like the South Bronx and Lower Manhattan, and invest in newer strategies like contingency management for people with substance use disorder. Contingency management involves offering incentives to those who accept treatment and stop using drugs. And this model has shown promise in other cities across the country and at U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs facilities nationwide. All of these strategies are part of our larger effort to improve public safety and drive down crime rates across our city, an issue I ran on and one that still resonates with New Yorkers all across the 5 boroughs. I'm proud of the historic progress we are making keeping New Yorkers safe, but public safety isn't just about stats. It's about feeling confident that you and your family can go to work, to school, or get on the subway in a safe and orderly city, one where people are being looked after, not looked away from. A thoughtful society should think about how to help you, and a government that gives a damn doesn't give up on anyone. That is why I'm here and what our team is working for. And we need help from all New Yorkers, including those of you who are in this room. So as we look forward to a new legislative session in Albany, we're asking for your support of the Compassionate Interventions Act. It will help those caught in the grip of addiction recover, improve quality of life across our city, and build a culture of compassion instead of a place where anything goes. Because anything goes is worse than nothing. It's an admission of failure, a dereliction of duty. New Yorkers deserve more than that, more than just giving up and getting by. In the name of public safety, public health, and the public interest, we must rally to help those in crisis. Pass this essential legislation and keep New York City the safest big city and the greatest city in the world, to start a business and a place to raise children and families. I thank you, and the city thanks you. Thank you very much.
Mayor Adams, it's no secret that you haven't always seen eye to eye with the state legislature in Albany. You have persuaded state lawmakers to move when it comes to involuntary commitment in a big, significant victory that we saw in the state budget most recently. However, when it comes to reforming how we approach public drug use, that might be a heavy lift. How do you see this work of persuading state lawmakers to move in your direction? What will that take?
People, what you are finding is that our state houses and even our city council, they have been hijacked by the numerical minority with far left extremist views. And they have gotten in the way, their noise, it has gotten in the way of real progress around these quality of life issues. And so the first thing I did when I became mayor, I I went out and purchased a bunch of earplugs and put them in my ears so I could ignore their noise and I could get stuff done. That's what we need to do. And so organizations like yours putting out commentary, op-eds, educating the public, because when you look at all of these issues that I've talked about, removing those with mental health illness, removing those with drug abuse, and even locking up dangerous migrants and asylum seekers. The public have overwhelmingly stood with me, but those who were in office that were afraid because of the numerical minority in these state houses and council house chambers, they have gotten in the way. But we forge ahead, and the result speaks for itself, and we're going to continue to educate the public because they have to make the final decision.
You won office in 2021 promising a return to public safety after a sharp spike in serious index crimes and a breakdown in public order. As you near the end of your first term, murders and shootings are near historic lows, but there still are real concerns about public order. What have you learned over the past 3 years, and how are you working to drive crime and disorder down across the board?
Yeah, and when you think about it, we are 3 and a half years later. All the experts told me it was going to take us 5 years to turn around our economy and turn around our city. We do differently, and we knew the first thing we had to do was to zero in on public safety. For my days of a police officer, policing started my policing career in 1984, understanding that public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity, and it's the economic stimulus package. And we knew if we could make our city safe, we will cycle through COVID, where we saw a historic number of our businesses close down, uncertainty, no one wanted to be on our subway system. And so we zeroed in on not only the actual crime, but the perception of crime. How? Removing 23,000 illegal guns off our streets, 130,000 illegal cars, vehicles, mopeds, ghost cars off our streets, making sure that we put in place programs for our young people who are typically involved in criminal behavior when they are not receiving the resources they deserve. 100,000 summer youth jobs, over 110,000 summer rising, allowing children to go to school all year round, internship program, other initiatives that we made sure that we can go after our young people. And we know we have more to do. And that's why we put our Q team, our quality of life team, in place, because crime is not only what you're the victim of, but what you're feeling. And our Q teams are going after everything from open drug use, abandoned vehicles, littering, dumping, illegal dumping. We're going after all the things that make New Yorkers feel unsafe so we can match our success in the stats. It must be also acknowledging how people are feeling in this city.
Many New Yorkers, including many of us in this room, are still shell-shocked by the terror attack at 345 Park Avenue not long ago. How are you and Commissioner Tisch thinking about the challenge of office security, given that so much of our urban vitality, our economic success, rests on the idea of people working together, being together in the office?
Yeah, real tragic. 4 innocent New Yorkers lost their lives, one of them being a police officer, Officer Islam, as well as just promising careers we saw evaporate in front of us. And as I walked through the building and looked at the video of the actual shootings, it tore me apart. It broke my heart to see someone with such a barbaric approach to harming New Yorkers. It was very painful. And think about what happened here. We had an individual who took an automatic or semi-automatic weapon across our country with only one goal. He walked on to take the lives of innocent people. And what I want to commend is rooted in management. I believe because of their active shooting training and the hardening of their office space, they saved lives. One of the victims was actually in one of the safe spaces. It doubled as a restroom, but it had bulletproof doors, bolts to lock your door in, and others went inside those safe spaces. And so what we're going to continue to do is partner with our corporate security teams. We meet with about 100 of them approximately every month. Best practices, weapon detections. We're going to continue to use technology on how do we identify weapons as they enter these places of employment, and continue to train and educate our corporations on why it's important, unfortunately, to carry out these active shooting drills, to know what to do when this takes place, because it's happening far too often in our country, and we must be prepared.
Mayor Adams, you're a blue-collar New York native who is proud of your roots. There are, however, hundreds of thousands of other New Yorkers from neighborhoods in central Brooklyn, southeastern Queens, elsewhere, who have been leaving the city to move to the Sun Belt in large numbers. How does your City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, the biggest land use reform since 1961, address that acute housing crisis that is driving out so many other working and middle-class families from the city?
Yeah, you know, and I am a blue collar, and it's obvious that you and I go to the same barbershop, you know. But we have done an amazing job, and you know, sometimes I reflect on it, and I talk to my team on what we have accomplished in housing. And when you peel back all of the noise, our administration had to deal with so much noise. But when you peel it back and just say, let me just analyze pound for pound on these important issues, public safety, healthcare, housing, and you look at the numbers, we have created, we have put in place plans for the future. We have retained, and what we're looking at in our reshaping of our zoning, 426,000 new units of housing in the upcoming next decade. This is unbelievable. The most comprehensive housing reform in the history of the city. And when you break down individual years, we broke records on housing in each year, in each individual year. We moved more people out of homelessness into permanent housing, as we talked about it, more people that participate in the FEPS vouchers program, in the history of the program. And so we're putting shovels in the ground now, like our Willis Point project, 2,400 units of 100% affordable housing, new soccer stadium, new school, new green spaces, what we have done in the Bronx and the Fordham South project. These places have been laid dormant for years. Flushing Airport, it was dormant since 1984. We are building thousands of units of housing there. We're looking at every agency to look at their available spaces, because government has been holding on to spaces without thinking about housing. And we have really turned the attention on how do we build towards the future. This is the first time in our history that every community board is now going to be rezoned to build new housing for working class New Yorkers. And even in our City of Yes, we could have gotten an additional 20,000 units, but the city council blocked and stopped us from doing an additional 20,000 units. But we forged ahead anyway. We're doing 5 neighborhood rezoning plans with 50,000 new units of housing are coming out of those rezoning plans. We're getting ready to announce one today that's going to be Manhattan with 10,000 units of housing. That is how we prepare for the future. We were hemorrhaging New Yorkers, but we're seeing a large number of New Yorkers that are returning to the city because no matter what we think about it, many people, when I'm in rooms with other mayors across the country, they debate about whose city's number 2 and number 3, but they look at me and smile. There's no place like New York. We will always be number 1.
Mayor Adams, by some measures, the city's economy has never been stronger. Record jobs, record tax receipts, and yet there's a real sense that the achievements of this moment are fragile, that we may well face a severe economic downturn. When you're looking at tourism, when you're looking at home health aides, things that have buoyed the city's blue-collar economy, these are not all things that are guaranteed to continue forever. When you think about the economic state of the city, what are the things that you believe we need to do to cement this fragile recovery?
Well, we have to lead from the front. Some experts would like to believe mayors don't have a real impact on creating jobs. They need to look at why we broke the record 10 times over and over again. We have more jobs in the city history, 4.6 million jobs. If you look at my small businesses, 1 out of 5 started under this administration because I knew When people come to this city to open a company and they want employees, they ask two questions. How good are the schools? How safe is the community? We brought down crime. We just looked at the numbers in our public school system. Our numbers in reading and writing are going up. We are outpacing, it's just about the entire state. So we know those two important entities are crucial to building jobs here. And we know these are going to be challenging times, but we're telling New Yorkers, don't be afraid of what the future has to offer. And the introduction of artificial intelligence is not going to take jobs away. It's going to make it easier for people to do their jobs. We know that using technology to make this a smarter city is going to give us the ability to increase the number of hirings that we're doing. And then make sure our young people are prepared for the future. It's crucial that we prepare our children for the jobs of the future. What does that mean? It's not just being academically smart, it's being emotionally intelligent. It's knowing how to work in groups. It's knowing how to have critical thinking, how to manage your emotion, dealing with social emotional intelligence. When I speak to my employers, they shared with me, Eric, I don't want to go outside the city to recruit our employees, but I must do the job in the Department of Education and in my secondary education to prepare our young people to fill these jobs that the future is going to hold. And that is what our task has been, and we have been successful in doing so, despite the naysayers.
Mayor Adams, one last brief question for me. What is your message to young New Yorkers who fear that they're never going to get on the housing ladder, that they're always going to be buffeted by rising rents, and that if they want to get ahead, their only shot is to leave the 5 boroughs? What would be your message to that young person?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And we are their partners. You know, that's why we lowered the cost of child care from $220 a month to less than $20 a month, a 90% decrease. We're saying to them, if you're a low-income young person and you're starting out the city, you know what your mayor did for you? He took away all of your income tax. Our young people and others who are low-income New Yorkers, they pay no income tax in the city. Raise the earned income tax credit. We made sure that we would pay off college tuitions for foster care children and give them life coaches to 21 as young people to get the support that they deserve. Our mentorship program is important. What are we doing in HPD for first-time home buyers to make sure that people can get a foothold in owning their homes? And what I really want to tell them is don't allow your despair to have you become radicalized. That's the biggest threat we're facing as a city and as a country. Our young people are being radicalized right under our eyes. When you look at some of the polls on how they feel about the country and do they love the country, if our young people start the process of not believing what this country stands for and why we are the greatest country on the globe, no one is lining our borders to leave America. They're lining our borders to come into America because we have the best product globally. And our young people, that's our bench. Anyone that builds a dynasty, if you want to use a sports analogy, if your bench and your farm team does not believe in the love of the team, then you cannot ever build a dynasty. We have too many people in our farm team that's in colleges, high schools, intermediate schools that have been radicalized not to love the team. We have to have them love the team again. And no matter what they go through, they know we will always survive and get through it. We can't feed them despair. We have to feed them the care they need. This is the greatest country on the globe, and they should be proud of being part of the greatest country on the globe. And those who hate our way of life should not radicalize our children to hate our way of life. And that's my instructions to them.
Please join me in thanking Mayor Adams.